I've been diving really deeply into the idea of regret. What exactly does it mean to have no regrets, as some people say? And what does it mean to even conjure up the idea of having regret? So, if we look at the definition of regret, it's something that we look back on with some sort of guilt or remorse that it exactly happened or that entire scenario even existed. And we look back at it and we kind of feel this remorse or we feel this guilt that we allowed ourselves to have done that or have experienced that in some sort of way or some sort of form. And we have this thing called regret, which is kind of the after effect of having that guilt or that remorse. So I've been reading really deeply about what regret means and how it kind of revolves around our lives, sort of like in a ghostly caricature. It kind of lives in the back of our heads. It's not really thoroughly in front of us, but if we just kind of sit down, like at our desk or even lie down in bed, these thoughts seem to creep back at us. All these memories that we tend to, these memories that we tended to have forgotten are suddenly alive again, as if they happened yesterday. Or maybe that you're thinking of a conversation that you had with someone or an altercation, and you wish you had said that, or you wish that you were, stronger during this moment, or whatever. So we have a lot of regrets. We wish that we can go back in time and kind of change our behavior. We can kind of change our approach to the given scenario, and that we can, live that ideal case in which we are envisioning now in this future present day. That we're like, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? We talked about this in the previous episode. And regrets can be really toxic in a way in their own regard, meaning that it's definitely a good place to jump off of. Like it helps kind of a baseline of where you want to go with your personality, with your actions, with your choices even, and just to avoid repeating the same mistakes. But if we allow our regret to embody us now, it's not going to be very beneficial. Meaning that if we kind of wear this regret on our shoulders as if it's like, like a school teacher telling us and correcting us with every little action and every given choice, it's going to take a lot of energy from us. It's actually going to take away from the fun of life. And it's kind of that saying that the past is a great place to visit, right? Like the memories that you had and everything, it's a great place to visit, but it's not a great place to stay. It's not something that you're like, remember when I was voted winter formal king back in 2014, whatever, so people do it. And you're like, what? We're 37. Why are you bringing this up? And sometimes, comedically in a lot of movies, a lot of these people that peaked at a certain point in their life, then it just goes as it's implied with peak, like you kind of go downhill from there. And it just becomes really humorous just to think about that. Some people peak there and they're just still reminiscing on the past, and they're not just reminiscing, they're actually living in the past. Now, I was scrolling through YouTube, and YouTube, just as YouTube always does, if you allow it to, listen in on your microphone, if you give it access to your microphone on your phone and you have YouTube on your phone, then it tends to listen to what you have to say, right? And to me, that is a stone cold fact. I think the FBI agent working on my side is really listening in, because the next thing you know it, on my shorts, on my recommended page, there's a short called the top 5 regrets of dying people. And it was posted by a YouTuber called, new YouTuber named Ali Abdal. And he kind of discusses an article that he fell on called, literally what we just said, top 5 regrets of those that are dying. And is by I have it right here, is by a nurse named Bronnie Ware. And she was a nurse, and she nursed basically those that were at basically the brink of death, right? They're going to be greeted with death in the coming months. And she was basically the nurse that was going to take care of them. I don't know particularly the name of that particular nurse, but she was that nurse. And she had this weird habit that she built, and she asked these people, her patients, what are your biggest regrets in life? What she did is she took that data, compiled it, averaged it out, and figured out what were the top 5 regrets that those dying in their deathbed would actually kind of tell her and vocalize. And, as if you were there, just think about it. If you're at your deathbed, you'd probably reflect on the things that you've done and things that you should have done and the things that you wish you didn't do, and things like that, when you're at that brink and you know that like this is the final time to kind of exhale all these thoughts out into the world before your last breath, right? And that got kind of dark, so we're going to kind of bring it back. So, the top 5 regrets of the dying by Bronnie Ware. I'm going to link the article actually in this episode's description. So if you really want to read it for yourself, it's really great. And shout out to Ali Abdaal for introducing this article because, again, like, I'm not stealing any material, but it's really great to see creators like bring these ideas to heart and to mind, because it really helps us think through these things, even though we think that we're invincible and that, like, our time here on earth is indefinite. There will come a time where we're really going to really reflect on all the things that we've done in life and all the things that we wish we could have done. So shout out to them. So I'm just kind of going off of what Ali Abdaal kind of planted in my head as I was actually reading about regret in this book called Who Will Cry When You Die by the monk who sold his Ferrari, Robin Sharma, I think. Not shawarma. Shawarma? Shawarma's a food. Great book, by the way. Who Will Cry When You Die? I'm going through a very, very weird time in my life, but this is all for you guys. So the number one regret that she mentions in this article that she wrote is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. That's a big one, and that's something that we've kind of discussed in the past few episodes about kind of figuring out what you like and what you don't like. Sound familiar? And ensuring that you're separating what other people want from you with what you want for yourself. And this is the number one, again, this is how many patients she's had. This is like the number one thing that's been said in her data that's very consistent with all her patients, saying that they wish they lived a life in accordance to their rules and what they want, as opposed to living a life, I guess it's implying living a life that's imposed by others, by, maybe gaining social status by particularly joining in on this or starting something just to get some clout or some sort of popularity out of it, as opposed to gaining the happiness that you've always dreamed of that is not influenced majority-wise by other people. So ensuring that you're living a life true to yourself and not just to other people. It's good to have feedback. Feedback is very different than having a general influence from other people. Feedback is kind of asking people how they perceive your work, and you can ask for respective opinions so you can improve that work or you can better yourself. And that's in no way, don't get that misconstrued with, general influence. If you're just living a life according to how other people are living it, and you think you should live their lives, and that's completely different. Make sure you're living your own life by your own rules, but not like in a negative way. Like don't push people aside because it's your way or the highway. Okay. So number two biggest regret when people are dying or of the dying is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And now this is kind of weird because I know that maybe you who are listening are younger than this, the dying age of these people that are iterating these words, and that's completely fine. And this is something that is really talked about a lot in this kind of day and age. If you open up social media, and maybe your algorithm's messed up like mine, and you'll find people kind of talking about hustle, right? Hustle culture is a real thing. You'll see it very prevalent in the people around you, which is it's not a good thing or a bad thing, because it kind of encourages you to work harder. But there is a certain point in which you have to work smarter. You've probably heard of that. I heard that for the first time in my math class. You have to work smarter, not harder. And I was like, what does that mean? That just means that you have to be efficient with how you work. You can't work so hard that you are severing time with those that you love or severing time with things and hobbies that you love, right? Because for the sake of work, right? And this is really true, right? We have parents, we have friends and all that work very, very hard, and they come home very, very late, and they don't have time to spend with their kids. They don't have time to kind of take in the rest of the day because they're just so enervated or energy taken away from the work that they did, in the office. And this concept of working hard, this hustle culture, has been shaken up very greatly by the pandemic as people are starting to realize that they can work remotely, they can work digitally. There's this idea of called quiet quitting. Again, not meaning that you're quitting and not telling anyone. That's not what quiet quitting is. Quiet quitting means that you're doing the bare minimum in your job just to get by and not going above and beyond, and this is most prevalent for salaried people, because you have an X amount of dollars being paid a year, and you just, you see there's no room for promotion or whatever, And people are quiet quitting by just doing the bare minimum because they're already given that salary when they sign the contract, and there is no growth within that year in which they're salaried. So that's why quiet quitting has become a very dominant topic nowadays, even though it's been here for a while. I have no idea why people are just getting into it. I guess it's just such a sexy term to toss around. But going back to the regret, I wish I hadn't worked so hard is number two. And that again implies we have to ensure what we value most. And that doesn't just mean who we value most, but what we value most, meaning the activities and hobbies that really invigorate us with life, right? So some of us, maybe playing music really invigorates you, and that's something that you shouldn't sever. There's a lot of people that, you have to, it's hard. Life is a give and take, and you have to work a job to sustain your life. And some of that does require sacrifice. So you can't like point fingers and point the blame at people for sacrificing things that they enjoy because they have to sustain their lifestyle, right? And or sustain their life in general. It's a very difficult society we live in now with inflation and everything. So wishing you haven't worked so hard is kind of implying that you have to find that threshold of hard work, which is enough, right, to kind of get by, not doing the bare minimum, but enough that you have still the right amount of energy to enjoy the things that you do enjoy and spend time with those people that you love dearly, rather than going through a huge work day and then meeting up with your friends for drinks and then you're just like kind of dead the entire time. That's not how your friends want you to be. They want you to be happy. They want you to be lively. And I know it's really impossible to do that with working so hard. So we have to be more understanding and gracious of these individuals that are working hard to sustain their life, because maybe they're not the only ones that are being supported by their income. Maybe they're supporting other people, and that can be a circumstance that's so common now. So don't work so hard, right? Work hard, but not like volume wise. Don't work so hard that you're tying yourself out from doing what you love or traveling to places, doing all the things that you can do now, because we're all still here. You still have your health. You're listening to this podcast. You have your 2 ears, unless you have a hearing aid. Not really sure, but there's so much tools that you still have now, which will depreciate over time, and you won't have those same tools when you're 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. So just keep that in mind. Don't overwork yourself. Find your threshold. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Now, this one really hits deeply. As a hopeless romantic myself, there are many times where there are many people that are just genuinely beautiful. I wish I told them they were genuinely beautiful. And this courage to express your feelings isn't just restricted to romantically. This can even just tell someone platonically how you feel, the impact they've had on your life, like giving them a compliment or kind of reassuring them of their role in your life. Like I said, like an influence, saying that what you did here in this scenario really inspired me to be a better person. And as you can tell from some few episodes in the past of this podcast, I've kind of referred to little phrases and notations from other people that they've said to me that have drastically changed my life. But the common theme of it is that I haven't really told them that I'm thankful and just extremely, eternally grateful for just saying those words to me that really opened my eyes, opened my heart. And you have to tell those people. You have to tell those people that you love them. You got to tell them of just the role that they play in your life, and those scenarios that you really reflect on, that they really constructively changed you as a person, or really kind of fundamentally created this foundation in which you served as a foundation to become the person you are today. You got to thank those people. And expressing your feelings is not just saying to your mom and dad that you love them, or your partner that you love them, because it does include that. It's not restricted to that. It's also telling your friends and family that you love them, or even just reminding them that, how much they have played a role in your life so far. So have the courage. Don't be like these people who, regret so much that they shouldn't have held their feelings to themselves. If you're happy or grateful for a person, vocally tell them, because some people are presenting themselves as happy-go-lucky people, but internally they might be completely different. And I'm not going to say I'm an example of that, but yeah, some people really need to hear it more than you think. So express your feelings properly. And I know that one's really difficult, especially for me. I can relate. That's very difficult for me because I grew up in a family where it's really hard to express yourself sometimes. But we always find a way at the end of the day to express our love for each other, no matter through vocally or, through food, whatever, If you're from that kind of culture, then you know what I'm talking about. So number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. That was a big one. Again, going back to the pandemic. Pandemic really challenged you, didn't it? It's kind of hard, isn't it? That you had to really think about. For me, it was a massive pruning era of friends. Pruning as in, not like the prune fruit, just to be quite honest. Prune a fruit? Pruning as in like when you watch a tree and it withers. Another word for pruning is kind of like, those, you see a tree and there's some branches that are not as healthy looking as the normal branches that are going out and about. And you see like there's kind of like branches on the tree that are still there. They're kind of dying off a little bit. They're kind of withering. So pruning would be going out and just kind of cutting those off and ensuring that you're allocating all of the energy of the tree to those healthy branches. So this pruning event of the pandemic, I don't know if you can relate, was really a test of will of all the people that are going to have your back, that are checking in on you, that, are open to communicating with you still throughout this pandemic where we were all stuck in our houses, because friendship isn't always just like the fun games that we play. And college is interesting because sometimes you live right across the hall from your best friends and the people that, you call family at the time. And friendship stretches beyond proximity. And that's a real testament that you have to face after college, that, true friends stand out, that make the effort to still preserve this friendship, still talk to you openly, no matter if they're across the hall or even across the country. Shout out to my friends. And I love them dearly. And, it's cool if you can have a yearly reunion like some of our friends do. And it's beautiful. Like, it's really beautiful to show that love is no distance, baby, as AJ Raphael says in She Was Mine, the song, which is a great song. And keeping in touch with your friends is really important because just like the entire message of this podcast is that you're not going through this life alone, and your friends are there to remind you of such, that you are not alone through this whole process, that you have people to talk to that are willing to give you feedback to help better improve yourself or even give you a push in the right direction, because we all need that every single day, if not every single day, at least once or 5 times a week, myself included. So keep in touch with your friends outside of your family, because if you're going through family problems, you can tell your friends. If you're going through friend problems, you can tell your family. Those are 2 big pillars in your life that you should kind of keep close to your heart. And just double down in your life. Not work, not all that stuff. Work on your relationships. That's where the real work should be prioritized towards, because those people will have your back no matter what. If you're in prison, who's going to break you out? Your dog? No. I don't think my dog's going to break me out of prison. She's just going to lick the glass when she visits me. But she's just a baby. So it's okay. I don't blame her. I love her. She's expressing my feelings. Now, number 5. I know this is the most bottom of the list, and you're like, okay, this is like number 5 in the top 5 regrets of the dying, but it's still a top 5, like the top 5 regret, right? So although it's low on the list, it does have some equal weight, although it's because given why it's top 5, given that it's not as frequent as number 1, which is, what was it again? Courage to live a life by your standards, not anyone else's. Number 5 is still frequent, right? So number 5 is, I wish that I had let myself be happier. What a great kind of encapsulation of everything we just said. Firmly, I think that if you focus on 1 through 4, I think number 5 is kind of a given. Like, you just make sure that you are not going through the downfalls of 1 through 4. You will genuinely be happy. And this is a future episode that we're going to talk about, which is happiness as an idea that we constantly pursue as if it's some sort of flagpole at the end of the field. But at the end of the day, is happiness something that we pursue, or is it something that naturally happens as we are going through our journeys, right? So let yourself be happy, knowing what you like, what you don't like, and kind of embrace that idea, because, that's really important. That's really important. And happiness, again, we're going to talk about in the future episode. Don't keep pursuing happiness, because that's basically equivalent to kicking the finish line further and further for you, because happiness, actually, the paradox of it is not something that should be pursued. Like The Pursuit of Happiness is a book and a movie that was published, right? And people think that happiness is something that you should be in active chase of. But at the end of the day, when you look around and see the cards that you're dealt and all the blessings you have in your life, happiness has always been there. That is a topic for a future episode. So sorry for diving too much into that. We will dive into that in a future episode, I promise. Now, given these 5 regrets, again, I'm not plagiarizing Ali Abdaal or Bronnie Ware. I'm specifically saying their names to give them credit wholeheartedly about what they've done and giving and presenting this to the world. And just like them, I'm trying to bring awareness to these topics. How can we avoid these regrets? And we did add some kind of constructive things that we can attach to these 5 regrets. But what exactly can kind of steer us in the right direction right now? What are the things that we can ask ourselves in this given moment that will provide us with the necessary, as we said, tools or kind of constructive steps that we can take right now in this given moment? Now, I'm not saying that you can take a pen or a pencil if you want to. If you're driving, if you're on the toilet or in the shower, it's kind of impossible. If you ride on the toilet or in the shower, kudos to you. I have no idea how you do it. But there is something, I'm not really sure where I heard about this from. I wrote it down in my Notion page. I'm going to read it out to you. But do service to them. If you do hear about this somewhere, do let me know where you heard it from, because I forgot where I heard it from. I just quickly write things down in Notion. I forget sometimes to cite my sources. Not plagiarism, please. Don't plagiarize. But there is something called vision, which we talked about, right? Now, there is something in business, having worked at startups and having worked in small businesses, there is something called the MVP. And I'm not talking about the most valuable person, because we all hear about the MVP. But MVP in a business circumstance stands for the most viable product. And what exactly does that mean? That means the most viable product is like, what is the most efficient way that we can make a product at a minimum level that will still produce the kind of the effectiveness of the product, right? Like, how can we minimize, like, instead of like putting $100,000 into a concept and then trying to see if like people will bite and that people will actually buy that product, we're going to try to minimize the cost, but trying to maximize the efficiency and the viability, right? Viability of a product. So let's look at viability. So viability, definition of viable. Come on, baby. Is capable of working successfully, right? So I just wanted to make sure that we're putting that definition giving it the proper justice. So trying to minimize the cost, but trying to maximize its success is the most viable product in a business. Now, since not all of us are business people, not all of us are entrepreneurs, because a lot of people on social media forget that we're not all entrepreneurs and they keep just talking about themselves. For individuals, there is something called the MVV, and it stands for minimum viable vision, right? Oh, what a play on words, right? This is definitely advice from an entrepreneur, so I'm a hypocrite because I follow a lot of entrepreneurs, and yet I have not started a business. Whoops. So, MVV, minimal viable vision. So, minimum viable product is minimizing your costs and maximizing your efficiency to maximize success, but minimizing all the other things that are required to basically minimizing input to maximize output. That is what minimum viable product is. A minimum viable vision is literally the same thing, but rather than a product, a thing that you sell, a vision is something that you individually hold, because everyone's vision is very different. For me, I need glasses, and I can't afford LASIK right now, and hopefully in the future I can, but everyone has different vision. Everyone has a different perspective on things. Now, minimum viable vision, just like the minimum viable product, also has questions that you have to jump through. Now, these questions, you can, like I was saying, that you can write them down if you want. You can repeat this part of the podcast. But I want to ensure that with these regrets that I'm throwing in your face, the top 5 regrets of the dying, I want to make sure that you're constructively going off of this rather than like kind of thinking about these regrets in a very macabre, very dark way. And you're like thinking at night, like, I'm going to die. Am I going to have this regret? Rather than having that negative festering in your head, I want to make sure that you actually have something to go off of, that has like something to, proceed from here, because a lot of these regrets are very general. And they're very general things, like living to the standards of your own life, not working so hard, expressing your feelings, even making yourself happier. They're very, very, very general. Like even some of them are social constructs. But the thing is, you're an individual. You have your own definition of what happiness is. You have your own threshold of how hard you work that will still maximize your efficiency without sacrificing your energy and your personality given. And also living a life by your standards. You have to live a life by your standards, not by anybody else's. So stop looking at those daily routines that other people are doing as a copy and paste way, but rather a way that you can kind of build off of. Going off of that, these regrets, what is something that we can build off of them? And that is the minimum viable vision. So what is the minimum viable vision? It's just a set of questions that you can ask yourself right now. And ideally, you should write these down and you should write your answers to them. And it's kind of like your log for the given day. Like you answer these as much as you can. Don't restrict yourself to one page if you want to, because you don't like writing that much. Feel free to do so. But as long as you're writing it out, it's a different feeling taking all these thoughts in your head and translating them into words that you're actually writing out outside of your head. It's really ridiculous. It's like having this vision of a story and then seeing it on the big screen. Just imagine how some directors and writers feel when they see their, CGI'd hobbits on the big screen and stuff like that, even though Tolkien wasn't able to see Lord of the Rings. So what are the questions that you can ask yourself for minimum viable vision? So the first question is who you want to be. Again, these questions can be extremely general, and it's totally up to you, and your role in this is to make it as specific as possible. Now, when you look at all these daily routines and all these people that are planning on YouTube that you kind of feel motivation to follow and copy and paste again, they're not giving you something to copy and paste. They're here to give you tools in which you can use and figure out what doesn't work for you. So just because people are waking up at 5 a.m. doesn't mean you have to wake up at 5 a.m. They're just showing you the benefits that you can reap from waking up early, right? So making it more specifically for you. Who do you want to be? Who you want to be is the foundation in which you can build off of. Some people want to be creative. They want to be working in kind of animation studios. They want to work, they want to be entrepreneurs like some of us. And we all want to start our own business. We all want to be our own boss. And that's very general. But specifically in what regard? Do you want to be the boss of an education company? Do you want to be a principal dealer at whatever company, right? Like being very specific of who you want to be and what your surroundings look like, and which we're going to talk about environment and its play on your life, then it kind of helps you take the first step in that direction, because you're actually visualizing who you're going to be and who you want to be. And it doesn't mean that you have to think about who you want to be in 10 to 50 years from now, but even who you want to be today. You can ask these questions every single day, although that might be extremely, extremely diligent and minute. It might give you more anxiety than it should. I would prefer you do this maybe like on a monthly basis, bi-weekly basis if you want. But again, minimum viable vision kind of gives you these steps in the right directions to avoid the 5 regrets of dying. So number 1 is who you want to be. Number 2 is what you want to do for work, right? We just kind of talked about that. What do you want to do for work? I'm still trying to process that as well. So you don't have to have a solid answer right now. But if you were to work on any job in any given regard, what would you be doing right now? You can be a freelancer, you can be a director, you can be a filmmaker, you can be an artist, you can be a painter, whatever you so be it. There are some people that I'm following. This is a new thing I'm following, are people that are creating digital products on the internet and they're making solid money out of it, like making journal templates and Notion templates, and they're actually selling them for good amounts because so many people are buying them for $1.99, and it's amazing. What do you want to do for work? Again, you don't have to think that this is the end goal for you. It's just something that you can kind of strive towards in this given chapter in your life, because your chapters in your life are going to begin, they're going to end, and maybe you're in the middle of one, maybe you're at the start of one. It's really good if you're at the start of one, so you have this minimum viable vision. And if you're at the end of one, at least you have an MVV for your next chapter. So number 2 is what you want to do for work. Number 3 is where you want to live, right? It's all about specificity. Where do you want to live? Do you want to live in a 5-star hotel like some entrepreneurs do? I know that Alex Hormozy lives in like the Las Vegas Strip, and he lives in like I think a condo on the Strip or something like that. It's crazy. But where do you want to live? Some people don't want to live in a very static or like a stationary place. They don't want to just stay in one house. They want to travel all over the world. They want to be freelancers. They want to be writers, and they want to watch the beaches of Bali while they're writing something out about how to travel efficiently on their laptops. So where do you want to live? It can be a big mansion. It can be a small condo. Depending on you, like some people like to live a maximal life and some people like to live a minimal life. But where do you exactly envision yourself living? So at least you can, continue to take steps towards that little humble abode of yours, that future humble abode. Number 3, 4, 5 is how you will contribute to humanity, right? And we talked about this with Benjamin Franklin. Something he asked himself in the beginning of each day is, what good can I do in the world? And he always ended the day with, what good did I do today? Or what good shall I do today, right? All those good things that you can ask yourself. How you contribute to humanity. Now, we know for a fact that we get irked by a lot of people that are just talking about themselves. They don't like that. And, it's just like, oh, money this, money that. I made this much money every month. And I personally get tired of those people, and it's just really ridiculous. And at the end of the day, we really want to leave a legacy. We want to leave some sort of way to remind others that life can be better. And this is why this podcast exists, is I'm currently learning, and hopefully the learnings that I'm kind of consolidating in my head will be beneficial to you. And for me, and maybe not for you, a life of service is something that is worth living for. And if we convert our lives into a life of service, not contributing 100% of ourselves, like giving up all our possession, everything, like I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that if we don't know how it feels to give, then how can we feel the right to receive, kind of thing? So how will you contribute to humanity? In what way? It can be through your art. It can be through your voice. It can be through your work, even, like whatever you're working on. Like if your answer number 2, what you want to do for work, like if you want to be an educator, that is your contribution to humanity. You want to make students realize that they have so much more potential than social media and other teachers are telling them that they don't have. And that in itself is a contribute to humanity, because we definitely need more dreamers in this life rather than those that are just following what people on YouTube are saying. And this goes for me too. I'm so sorry for telling you what to do. So how will you contribute to humanity in this given moment, or maybe in the next couple months or years, whatever you so be it? Again, the timeline is dependent on you. Now, the final question, and this is the 6th question, is what people you will surround yourself with, network, and social media. As they say, I think Jim Rohn said this, is that you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. He didn't say hang around with, but he said you're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. So the top 5 people that you see the most, that you communicate with every single day or very consistently, those top 5 people, you're the average of those 5 people. You're kind of the Frankenstein of Mary, Elizabeth, and whoever. And you are the person you are because of, 1, your childhood, 2, because of your upbringing, like the effects of that childhood, 3, the consequences of your adulthood and whatever you're going through right now, and 4, finally, is by the people that you surround yourself with, the people that reminded you of the circumstance that you're going through and pushing you to be better. This kind of goes off of the regret that says, I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. Your friends are there, right? Your friends and family that you surround yourself with are going to influence how you perceive things, how you're going to interact with other people, it can even alter your entire vision, because people that work hard, that surround themselves with people that work hard, will tend to work hard, right? And if you surround yourself with people that don't really have any goals and are just kind of breezing through life, then you're going to tend to be influenced to do such. It's one of those things where, I don't know if you experience this, I definitely have, you pick up mannerisms and phrases and sayings that your friends do, not intentionally, but like you find yourself saying something that you're like, oh shoot, I sound exactly like, definitely done that. And that's because we are very social creatures. We kind of tend to pick up on things. I tend to, like not mock, but like to just try to do the voice or impressions of other people that I see as much as I can. And it's just like a tick that I have. And I apologize to people who are victims of that. But yeah, who you surround yourself with, the average of those 5 people is really important, because depending on who you surround yourself with, this minimum viable vision can be steered in a very, very different direction. So make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that respect you for who you are, not necessarily people that are just saying yes, 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 like yes, yes, you got this, like you got this, you know. It's really great to have encouragement, but people that are not giving you proper feedback. What I'm saying, actually, I'm talking too fast, sorry, is that not people that are yes men. You ideally want people to realistically know exactly what you want, who you are really in real life, and be true to yourself. That will give you feedback and remind you that, okay, what you just did is not who you are, right? Like they're going to remind you of those things that are heavy hitting statements that no one else is going to be that honest with you. Those are the people that are really important. And I know that the previous episodes, including this one, revolve a lot around people, and it's because life is nothing without people. So make sure that you're looking through this minimum viable vision. So 1 is who you want to be. Number 2 is what you want to do for work. Number 3 is where you want to be, or where you want to live, excuse me. Number 4, what your ideal day looks like. I think I skipped this one. But what your ideal day looks like, you don't have to time block everything. You don't have to copy and paste the morning routines or evening routines of anyone on YouTube. You can try it, yes. But if you're not enjoying the process, it's time to toss that part of your daily routine away, your whatever morning or evening. It's just kind of like going through skincare and trying like a product, and if it's not working, you're like, okay, I'm purging, and you go through months and months of purging. You're like, okay, it's still purging. There's no such thing as purges that like last 9 months. Okay, just letting you know. Drop the product. You know, maybe that CeraVe is not working. You can do Cetaphil. You can do, my personal favorite is Vanicream, but okay, we're going off on a different tangent, but you know what I get. You know what I'm saying here. Look what your ideal day looks like. Does waking up in the morning, eating breakfast with your family part of your routine that you ideally want? Would you want a dog? You want to play with that dog? Do you want to work from anywhere? Do you want to go to the office? Do you want to like look good? Do you want to go into the office dressed in a nice suit or a fancy dress and with a briefcase or whatever, like the movies say that people do, but not really? What does your ideal day look like? You want to be done with work by 3 p.m., 5 p.m.? Some freelancers are like, I finish work at 12 p.m. What does your day look like? Sorry, I'm diving into this because I forgot to mention this part. But what does your ideal day look like? That's part of your vision. All right. And we might jump into the ideal day, constructing an ideal day and how that looks like in a future episode. So that is number 4, actually. I'm so sorry. What does your ideal day look like? Number 5, how you'll contribute to humanity, how you contribute to society, whether it be through your art, through your voice, through any of your abilities, any of your skills, even your generosity, even your hospitality can contribute to humanity. So it doesn't have to be anything big or grand. It can even be the smallest actions that you do for someone else. Now, finally, the final question you can ask yourself is what people you'll surround yourself with. Remember Jim Rohn's thing, you're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. And if those 5 people are lacking in any regard, or ideally are not going to be the people that you want to be one day, and not giving you the positive, not always positive feedback, but the feedback in general, just feedback, the feedback that you need to grow as a person, then kind of think about it. Or, we're all growing here. So don't be so what's the word? Don't be so mean, don't try to prune people away from your life. It's like, okay, you're not meeting 1 out of the 5 needs that I need as a person, so you're out of my life. Like, it's not about that. Like, I know people that do that, and it's so ridiculous. Because those people still love you, and that's kind of the basis to go off of. But don't be so drastic with cutting people out of your life, because that's really not necessary to prune away the excess, as some people say. It's really, really toxic doing that, and just finding the people that will like be your yes men. It's not about that. You want to have a diversity of people, right? People that do different things, that see things in a different way, that see the world in a very different way, and that will help you grow as a person. And you don't really have to get down to your followers list and figure out who's following you and who's not, and unfollow those that are not following you. It's not about that. It's kind of reflecting on more so the impact that these people, specifically these 5 people that you surround yourself with the most, how much of an impact that they've made in your life so far, and being grateful for that. And I think the sub question of this is that, has this person made an impact on my life that has fundamentally helped me change into a better person, or improve my day or improve my life in some sort of way, not materialistically, not monetarily, but just being there when you needed them and just really supporting you when you needed support, or even giving you feedback when you think you didn't really need it and it really helped you proceed forward with a given project or even with your own life. If the answer is yes, if they helped in any regard, then keep them. It's not about pruning as many people as you can. It's not about cutting out game. It's about ensuring that you have the best quality life, the best quality people, and the happiness that you deserve in this life, so you don't fall into these regrets of the dying that Bronnie Ware brought up and brought to our attention. So I don't think that regrets have been brought up enough. I don't think death is brought up enough. But it's a good reminder that we have to maximize our day, if not maximize our time with others, in order to actually feel the happiness that we deserve, as opposed to just chasing happiness. Because the more we run for happiness, the farther it'll get away from us. A topic for another episode. All right, guys, this was a really hefty episode. This is actually probably one of the longest ones I've put out. Let me know how helpful this was. If this was really helpful, please do share with a friend. If you haven't followed already, Sarcastically Optimistic, do hit that bell, the notification bell, so you're notified. Every Monday, a new episode drops, and this one was okay. I don't know how you think. That's me, personally. But talking about feedback, if you do have any feedback about any of these episodes, anything, please comment on the video on YouTube, because Sarcastically Optimistic is on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music. It's on whatever platform that you listen to podcasts on top of YouTube. Leave a comment. I leave an email in every description of every episode, so you can email me your any thoughts, what you think so far, people that you want on. If you want to be on yourself, it's going to be great. Yeah, I'm really excited for the future of this podcast, and the optimistic part is coming back, I think. So I'm really grateful that you guys are listening, for those that are listening, and hopefully this episode was helpful in some regard. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this whole process. Like I said before, it's already been a year since I dropped the first episode, and I'm extremely, extremely privileged to have these tools to promote, kind of do this. And family and friends are there to support. So you know who you are. I love you guys very much. Thank you so much. No regrets, right? All right, guys. I'll catch you guys on the other side of things. Goodbye.
Yeah. Baby, why you always smoke a J, relax and watch some anime, come through the pad I'm trying to play, a Super Smash Bros, what you know, wait to let me pick Lucario, you don't even know what I'm saying, up B, and down B, now be playing, praying, anything with you, baby girl, it's a day